Welcome to the County Business Club's podcast, hosted by Sam Thomas and powered by Picture Book Films.
Okay, so welcome to the next episode of the County Business Talks podcast. I'm truly delighted to welcome a very special guest to the pod this week. She's CEO, business lawyer and founder of Acumen Business Law and Acumen Business People Solicitors. She's a multi-award-winning entrepreneur, author of The Freedom Revolution. But for me, the best way to describe her was brilliantly said by Christina Ewbank, President of the Chamber of Commerce in Eastbourne. Put energy, passion, determination and vision, add a pinch of fizz and put in a little bottle, shake well, and you would have a perfect recipe for my special guest. Welcome, Penina Shepherd.
Hello, Sam. Thank you for having me.
Brilliant. Listen, Penina, great to have you on. Really delighted. Listen, we're going to dive straight into the podcast. We always do. If you can, just start telling our listeners a little bit about your business journey.
Right. Well, I'm a solicitor, and I worked for top 100 law firms before. And the thing is, they were good law firms. So that was something that was really important to me when I looked back at my experience and what made me go and set up my own law firm. It's not because I was unlucky and worked for law firms which weren't good and therefore I wanted to create something better. I actually worked for good law firms, but I wanted to create something different. I was just very frustrated with the way the legal industry, I felt that the world of business is moving on, is dynamic, is innovative, whereas the legal industry is lagging behind. It's old-fashioned, often fuddy-duddy. There is obsession with hierarchy. You know, I'm a senior solicitor, I'm a partner, you're an associate, she's an assistant, you know, obsessed with hierarchy and titles. And also interaction with clients, I felt was, speak to my secretary first. And I thought there's got to be a different way of providing legal services. And in September, it would be 14 years. Wow. So 14 years ago, I took the brave step and started my own journey.
Amazing. So tell me, so you started out obviously as a solicitor and worked in very similar, but did you know, was that what changed you to decide that you wanted to start your own business? Or was it that, did you have a bit of a burning desire from a young age that you thought, I'm going to get into law, but ultimately you've always had that sort of entrepreneurial spirit. You've always had that mindset. Look, at some point, I'm going to start my own business. Did you know that from a young age?
Well, it's a thought that was definitely in my mind, but I'm not. You know, you have some people say, "Oh, I always knew I was going to work for myself. I was always going to." Not necessarily. It was genuinely the desire to do something different, and I tried to create it within the firms I was working in. Because I'm a huge believer in, there is entrepreneurship, but there's also intrapreneurship. Yeah. And there are, you can do some amazing stuff within a business as well if you're given the right platform and the right feedback and the right cooperation. And I tried to be an intrapreneur within my own firm, but I felt sometimes it was like pushing water up the hill. You know, this is how we do things. This is who we are. Sometimes committees upon committees. And I thought, do you know what? I'm going to take the brave step and I'm going to do it on my own. In the past, it did cross my mind, would I want to do it? The thing is, I love working with people. And the only concern I always had was, I don't want to work on my own. So when I started the business, if you came to me and said, look, I'm a fortune teller and I'm always right when I tell the future. And I can tell you that you're going to end up as a sole practitioner, maybe with a half a secretary. You will rent a Victorian office type in Brighton somewhere, and it'll just be yourself with half a secretary. I probably would not have done that. Wow. This is something I always knew. I always knew it had to be a bigger firm, not just me or me and another half a person as a sole practitioner type thing. I didn't want to be a sole practitioner. So to answer your question, yes, it did cross my mind about starting on my own, but I thought, but I don't want to work on my own. But when I realized that there is an opportunity to innovate, I came up with a cheeky way not to be on my own. Right. When I actually started 14 years ago, the first thing that I set up was actually the Acumen Business Group.
Well, okay.
And that was when the way we looked at it, when a business grows, right, when a business grows, what does they take in-house first? Marketing, finance, legal, IT, HR. So as a business, when you are growing and you want this in-house capabilities, these are the 5 departments that you will take on board first.
Yeah, of course.
So I thought, it was me and another guy, we got together and we had this idea, why don't we, so he was in the finance/business consultancy side, I was the legal, and we said, why don't we recruit HR, marketing and IT? When I say recruit, we didn't mean as employees, to do a joint venture of the 5 of us. We'll set up a group. So the 5 of us will still be, I'll be my own law firm, you'll be your own accountant and your own HR and your own marketing. And we just go and offer a one-stop shop. And that's how Acumen Business Law started. It was, one part of the Acumen Business Group. The 4 that we got together, they were already working as self-employed people for a number of years. Some of them were 3 years, some of them were 8 years. I was the only one who was new, just left employment. In fact, just had my 3rd child. When I started, I had a 9-year-old, a 6-year-old, and a 6-month-old baby.
Wow.
And the first time I was going on my own, whereas the other 4 were already running their businesses by that point. So that, and we took, we are in Hove Street, we still are. We took Audley House in Hove Street. And the 5 of us worked together, which was really nice to me because it meant that I didn't have to work on my own. It was really nice for them as well. And then what we've decided that it became a bit problematic, I think, it was because we weren't really one company. We were 5 businesses trying to work together. It was like 5 chefs trying to work to cook a roast dinner.
Sure.
And
Too many cooks in the kitchen.
not necessarily a problem, but just different ways of wanting to cook that roast dinner. So we said, look, why don't we just stay in the building, and the Acumen Business Group will simply just hire the building, but we'll carry on within our own industries, which is what we've done. But then with time, each of them left the building, and Acumen Business Law grew and grew and grew, and we took over the entire building in the end.
Wow. That's incredible. I mean, you sort of mentioned, it's interesting, like why I want to just touch on the point you made that your children at them ages, why then at that particular time, why was it in 2007 when you started Acumen, was it that it just been building up, you thought, right, this is the right time, and a lot of people listen, a lot of listeners, maybe people thinking about starting their own business, I can't do it because that's not the right time. I'll wait till the kids are a bit older and then I'll do it. And then there's never, I think the point I'm making is there's potentially never really a right time to do it. You've just got to have the guts to go, I'm going to do this and make it work, and you make it work. Yeah,
this is absolutely true, and there's something that I talk about in my book quite a bit about the timing, and it's not dissimilar to having children. Often you say, "Oh, is it the right time to have a child?" Do you know what? It's never the right time. You can always have a better house and more money and a more accommodating job, or better time of your life. If you, within reason, there's no ideal time, and it's very much the same with setting up a business. In my case, you could say it was the worst time because I had a newborn. I just had my 3rd child. As I said, I had a 9-year-old, a 6-year-old, and a newborn, which is a really tough time. Anyone who set up a business knows and will tell you, and it's like having a child. It's so demanding. It's so demanding. It's 24/7. It's in your mind all the time. You have to give it so much time and effort. You don't. It keeps you awake at night. It's so similar. You stress about it. Am I a good parent? Am I doing the right job? And it's exactly so. In a way, it's like I had 4 children. Under the age of 9. From that respect, it was the worst time. It was the worst recession. It was.
I was just about to say time-wise.
I started it in September 2007, and the world collapsed by Christmas. And I remember thinking, "Oh, that wasn't right time. I better do up my CV again and look for a job." It was, I also had to earn money because being the main breadwinner, it wasn't because sometimes you hear a situation where I said, well, my partner is working. I was going to give that a go. If it worked, it worked. If it didn't, it didn't.
Yeah.
No, I had to earn money. I had to make it work. Also, I was just diagnosed with terminal illness at the time, and I was told that I was unlikely to survive. At the same time as I started my business, clearly I survived, and the doctor was wrong because I'm here.
Wow.
But when you look at the combination of all these, and again, and especially with law firms, starting up a law firm, it's not, I started it after 6 months maternity leave. I didn't have one client. And often people start a law firm when they have at least 1 or 2 clients that either they take with them or they know them through personal contact. Sure. I opened I turned up on the first day in September 2007 without one client. I had to start completely from scratch. So if you look at all these reasons together, you go, this is definitely not the right time to start a business. It's recession, you haven't got enough money, you just had a child, you've just been ill. This is not the right time. But I thought, you know what? That's when I set out to do it, and I'm going to do it. And when it came to the recession, I thought, well, I'm just not going to participate. It's the world hasn't ended. There is still work out there. I just need to make sure that some of it come my way, and do my best to get it.
How do you with that? What an amazing. Again, we talked in the podcast. The main thing is tapping into people's mindsets. How do you that sense of resilience from that right from your starting blocks? Really, you're like you say. Some people will start a business. They go, well, I've built up a bit of a clientele. They're going to come, so I've got this. Maybe haven't got kids, not suffered a terminal illness, and been in that position, and are in quite a strong position, and going and still that doesn't really work out. And as a starting point, starting blocks, whereas your starting blocks are really bad, but your mindset to be able to go, like, I love the comment of, I'm not going to participate with the recession. I'm not going to participate in that. This is what I can do. I know. And that just comes then from ultimately down to self-belief, that you just ultimately believe that you would achieve it.
Yes, it is. It's the, passion about the idea. I had the idea of setting up a law firm that is truly different, and I was sitting at home and I was writing the ideas, and I was so excited about making it happen. I really wanted. It wasn't like, oh, I don't like my job. Okay, I'll start on my own then. It was, no, I've got an idea here that I believe is innovative and it's different. And when the Financial Times listed us at the top 50 groundbreaking and innovative law firms in the UK and Europe, it was a nice confirmation that, I was right in what I was thinking, that it was truly different to set up a law firm that behaves different internally as well as externally. But the mindset is key, and you are spot on with that. And fear paralyzes us. It really stops us from doing the things we want to do. But so often, everything we want is on the other side of fear. And whenever I talk to anyone about fear, I say to them, just ask yourself, what's the worst that can happen? But truly, you're really fearful about doing this thing now. What's the worst that can happen? And if the worst is, that my children will be harmed, I will end up on the street, whatever, then maybe the price is too much. I don't want to put my children at risk or whatever.
Of course.
But sometimes and often it just means, I might have to sell my house and move to a smaller house. Okay, it might, or I might not be able to afford to go on holiday for a couple of years, or I might have to work harder. Sometimes the sacrifice is not that life-shattering, and it's really worth trying it for that, because when you look at what's the worst that can happen, not always, but sometimes it's not that bad. And then I say, ask yourself a much better question. What's the best that can happen?
Yeah, I love that,
And, and when you imagining, when you go on that path of what's the best that can happen, it's actually really, really exciting, and it's worth giving it a go.
It's really because I want to talk obviously a little bit about your book, obviously the Freedom Revolution, and you've obviously alluded a little bit to that. The question I'm about to say about fear that paralyses it. Is it? You think it's potentially a lot of it? One thing we really delve into is about the fear of failure. Basically, some people. Do you think that's what stops a lot of people? Is the thought of I've got this idea. I do want to try that, but what if that doesn't work? And then I found, and if I fail, but I think for me, failure, and I've probably failed more than I've succeeded, whatever. But I think how you look at it and just it's the learning experience from that failure, and that's what makes you the person you are today. You try not to make those mistakes. You learn from that, and you go. I think that's something that I'm keen to really, I guess, just talk to me a bit more about the freedom element and that sort of mindset of, because you mentioned in there about just giving it a go, and I think that is something that I want to try, I guess, to inspire listeners to look at. People are thinking about that. Just actually give it a go.
Yeah, and I think if there is a listener thinking, oh, I actually have this idea, but Sam is spot on. I'm just scared of failing. I would stop and say to that person, what does that failing look like? Because in practice, it's probably not like that. So there are so many other things that you can't predict where you're sitting today. So you might want to, in your head, you go, right, I want to set up a podcast. I want to do a new podcast and I want to bring people. Okay, but it's probably fail. So what does that mean? What would failure look like? So it may be that in your mind, no one is going to come and see it. No one is going to listen to it. I'll have no platform to put it on. That's how you... But failure isn't like that. There will be some failures. There will be someone that you'll ask to come on board and they'll say no. There will be some podcast that you put out there and doesn't get a lot. But that's not failure. That's part of the process. There will be... And that's with any business, if it is you're going to open a restaurant or you're going to set up a web design company or an accountancy firm, what you think as failure, you're probably thinking the worst possible scenario on all front. I'm just going to be dead. But there will be other things. There will be little failures, but there will be little successes, and you'll change direction. You might go, actually, I was going to set up that restaurant in Brighton, but now that I started to look into it, I may actually do it in Horsham or in London or in Crawley or whatever. There'll be all sorts of things that happen along the way that you can't predict now. So, the fear of failure, what is the failure that you're imagining? Let's break it down. There might not be that big failure that you're imagining. There will be, I can guarantee there will be failures along the way, but there'll also be some successes, and you'll change directions and you move along. And the thing about the Freedom Revolution, I do talk about, fear and everything else in there, but primarily it's about the revolution in the business industry that's happened in the last decade, probably. Before, if you look at it in the 70s and in the 80s and in the 90s, business was driven by money primarily. It was all about whether you were climbing the corporate ladder in a job or whether you're starting a business on your own, how much money can I make? This is my progression, my career progression. How much money can I make? Whereas the revolution that is happening in the business world, actually, it's not that people in business care about making money. And that's because they have to make money. If you don't make money in business, if Acumen will stop making money, Acumen will not exist. All these jobs that Acumen at the moment, giving to all our people, they will not have those jobs, and Acumen will not be there. Therefore, Acumen has to be financially successful. But that wasn't the drive. It was a desired outcome, being financially successful. When I started the law firm, of course, I wanted to be a financially successful law firm. But for me, and it's hand on heart, when I sat there days and days and thinking about it and planning it, I never thought, and I will make all that money and I will buy a yacht. I don't think I'll buy a yacht, and I will and I'll be able to fly every month or what. yes, I wanted to make money to provide for my family, and that goes without saying. And I wanted to grow, so it had to make money so I can take on employees and be able to pay them. And I want to be able to pay people market rate, so it has to make money. And I wanted it, and I still want it to make money. But that wasn't the drive, and that's what the revolution is about. The revolution is about purpose being the drive for business people. You know, you set up this podcast idea not because, and I'm guessing I'm putting words in your mouth, that you thought, oh, that will make me a millionaire. You were enthusiastic, like you were saying earlier. You were running, you listen to other people's podcasts, and you think, this is so nice. I would like to give that a go. Yeah, ideally, it'll be financially successful, and for sure, that's a desired outcome. But that wasn't the drive. It's something within you that wanted to create that platform. You're fulfilling a certain purpose within you, and that's what the Freedom Revolution is about.
For me, I look, absolutely fascinating, because that, again, read books, listen to books, listen to podcasts, stuff like that. But for me, that is ultimately it. Like, we could have, if we had a conversation probably 12 years ago, I started my business journey 12 years ago with the hair salon. I was quite money motivated. I read loads of books and changed my life in the way of, back in my mid-20s. I guess I always had a burning desire to do that, but back in my early 20s, I was like, yeah, I'm going to run my own business one day. And I start, well, okay, I'm on this journey. I'm going to be a millionaire, and I'm going to have a big house and a Ferrari and all. And those were my motivators. In a sense, I think kids was a big leveler for me, but even prior to that, you start to learn a lot about maturity and other stuff that comes into it. But it then becomes, successful business is not. It's more about, one thing I learned recently. It's more about is there a problem out there, and how can I solve it? That's a purpose why you're starting that business, why you're doing something in that sense. Not because you're set right. I'm going to set up this business. Not interested in that, but no, that's going to make me lots of money. That can't be. I'm confident that many of them businesses that start that way will fail.
And purpose goes even deeper than that. For example, coming up with an innovative way of providing legal services, that was certainly a purpose, but real purpose goes much deeper, and it's different for every person. It could be, I want to show my mum that I can. I never thought that I'd be able to do that, and I want to show that I am able to do that. Or I want to make the world a better place. Or I'm doing this for my friend. Or, purpose could be much deeper. And if you just read the real purpose, you won't even guess necessarily what business it is. Whereas if you say, I want to provide legal services in an innovative way, you immediately know, okay, it's a law firm, it's providing legal services, and it's certainly part of the purpose. But purpose is something much deeper. It goes, back. That's many sessions of therapy.
That's incredible. One thing I find quite interesting, and something especially with social media now as well, there's a lot of, we almost need this validation. So that's what social media is about. Look, we all use it. I'm guilty of it.
I took some selfies that I will put on social media.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And it's a great tool. It's brilliant. It's brilliant for business. It's brilliant personally. And it does. There's an element, I guess, of, like you say, delving into your own purpose of why you're doing. If we put things out there and that's not got many likes, and you're relying on other people's validation of you, then for me, you're searching for something in yourself. Whereas if you're content and you've got your own purpose, you know what your drivers are, you know where you are as an individual, and where you don't need that validation from other people. It's only the validation that you have to give yourself. Like, I'm happy with that.
Yeah, and while I said, many sessions of therapy said that as a joke. For me, my therapy, maybe I should take therapy one day, because it's something something I've never experienced, and I imagine it's something that can be really soul liberating. But for me, I get all my inspiration from reading books, and I guess that's my therapy. I read a lot of books, and I get my inspiration, and what you say about social media, there is a new book that was written by Hannah Ben Shabbat called Gen Z, about the new generation, Generation Z, and how they how they're going to be as employees and how they perceive the world and how they are consumers in a different way to the way we were. And the world of social media, if you are young and vulnerable, must be terrifying. And I always think, imagine yourself if you're 14 or 15 or 16 and you're looking on, I was going to say Facebook. No, you won't be looking at Facebook. You'll be looking at Instagram or a Snapchat, and you'll see all your friends are at a party, but you're not.
Yeah.
If we didn't get to a party, we didn't know. We didn't get invited. We never knew. We were at our home with our families, having a good time, having a good weekend, not realizing there is a big party out there that we are not invited to because there's no social media. Yeah. But imagine, you are 13, 14, 15 kid, you pick up your phone and you see, so many other people from your class or whatever in a party and you didn't get invited. That must be soul destroying. But what you were saying, it doesn't stop with age in the sense that it doesn't matter how old you are. People who are, the more vulnerable they are, the less confident they are, the more they'll be affected by, why am I not getting enough likes? Yeah. And absolutely, that's a whole world.
It's a minefield, isn't it? You look at that next generation. My kids are only 6, they're growing up, and you sort of look at the world that they're going to come into, and it's... One thing I think is so important to build within business is so key is resilience. Is such a bit, and I try and with our kids even from a young age and still now, just always trying to build resilience within them. And I think that's such a tool that they're going to need growing up, and we all do as people, as business owners especially. But I think for the younger generation, definitely it's something that they're a tool that they're going to need,
And that's why part of the innovation, if you like, of starting the business. So, for example, we run the Acumen Business Convention, and I tell you what reminded me when you said resilience in business, and the idea was this is not a legal event, a law event. The event starts at 11:30 with a lunch at the Grand Hotel. We normally have about 300 people, and it ends at 7 o'clock in the evening. And in those 7 hours, I think there is 15 minutes of law. When there is like a seminar that you select and you go and you get 15 minutes of it. The rest is all about business stories, business tips, toolkit, inspiration. And David Gower is going to be, so we normally do it in May of every year. So obviously in 2019, we're celebrating the 10th anniversary of the Acumen Business Convention. We had Tony Bloom as the guest speaker. We had the owner of the founder of Yo Sushi. We always have business founders, business owners who tell their journey. But we also have the arena speakers, and these are local business heroes who tell their story as well. But this year we've got David Gower, who is a cricket legend and a broadcaster. And I heard him give a talk, and he said, that's how, remind me when he said resilient, he was talking, okay, this is my knowledge of cricket is going to come to the fore now. Ian, there's a famous cricketer called...
Ian Botham.
I think so, that's right, yes. Thank you. Any tips on cricket, come to me.
That's my limited knowledge of cricket. But
and 95% sure he was talking about him. So sorry, David, now if I'm completely ruining your story here. But he was talking about how he was saying this is also a tip for people in business. Not have self-doubt. You don't second guess yourself. That's it. He said he didn't second guess himself. This is who I am. This is what I'm doing. And I think this approach in business is fundamental. Of course, we all doubt ourselves, and I'm sure even Ian Botham had moments where he goes, "Did I even throw that ball? Is that what you're doing cricket in the right way or whatever?" And yes, and I do, and I'm sure most people do. But the more you have it, the more you are just going to have a very tough journey. And it's, as I was saying, it's a bit like being a parent. It comes built in with guilty feelings. Surely, when I used to pick up my kids from school and all these mums come with these home-baked muffins, and I don't home-bake muffins, and I thought, I'm a terrible parent, but then my daughter, who's at university, literally 2 days ago texted us and said, I just want to say that I think you're both super parents, and when I'm a parent, I want to be like you. And you think,
amazing.
We did do something right.
Amazing.
So it's very similar in the business world, in the sense that yes, you can always think, surely I could do better than that. And look at that other business who's in my sector. Are they doing better? Shouldn't I be doing what they're doing? Stop self-guessing yourself. If you give it your all and you're really passionate and you really care and you're interested, you will do your best, and you need to limit the amount of, self-doubt and self-guessing. And the number of likes are not an indication of how well you're doing.
And get, I guess, all of that back to what you alluded to earlier about purpose. As long as you know what your purpose is, why you're there, why you're doing it, what that's about. Of course, self-doubt comes in. You do. We're human, so we're going to second guess from time to time. But ultimately, you go, but this is why I'm here. That is, and I think you're so spot on with the fact that if you drill down to why have I started this? What is my purpose here? Why am I doing it? That will always override all the other bits and pieces, and you can go.
Do you know the biggest validation for me, much more than number of likes or whatever, was in this horrendous COVID year, the C word. When it started, when it kicked off, I remember the date because we are a democratically run law firm, so we have weekly meetings with lunch when we run the business, and it could be a boring item such as, shall we hire a printer or buy a printer shall we open another branch in Kent? We discuss it all. So the last meeting was on Tuesday, 17th of March. And in that meeting, we said we're going to finish the day in the office, but from tomorrow, everyone works from home. That was a Wednesday. And it was on Friday when Boris announced the lockdown. So, we were like 3 days before that. Yeah. And so that was 17th of March. And then lockdown was announced. And I was in tears. And I will admit. And funny, it came out in the most unpredictable time. And my marketing manager asked me to come up with some wording for something, and I said, we've already got it on our website. And I was at home on my own, looked up our own website just to get the wording out, and I just burst out crying. But I don't know, maybe because I saw the website and thought, that's a cool business, and it's gonna die. I seriously thought there is no way we're going to survive this, because I thought, again, you have to wear the hat of March 2020, not now. When if someone goes, there's a lockdown next month, we go, whatever. Can you pass the water?
No problem.
And that you have to wear the mindset
so
of it. It was like,
of
what?
course.
We're not allowed to leave the house. All the businesses will be shut. Restaurants, cafes. So I was in that world, and I thought, we have
something you've built up over 14
exactly
years.
That 14 years. I put, blood and everything, sweat into this business, and if you're a solicitor and you go bankrupt, that's not good news.
Sure.
And I'm thinking, will I even be able to stay, actually to stay afloat? So I'm not ever, declared bankrupt, so I can be a director and I can be and work as a solicitor. And I thought, oh my goodness, will I start all over again? And I just burst out crying. And I thought, this is it. Who's going to come to lawyers now? And I'm not talking about if you were sued and you were in the middle of a court case, that's different. But Acumen Business Law is, deals with joint ventures, buying and selling businesses. Sure. It's all about protecting your intellectual property, making sure you've got solid contracts in place. The world is closed down. You're not going to come to lawyers and talk about these things now, taking on employment contracts, growing in your premises and need new leases. None of it is going to happen. So I thought, this is it. I just hope, I can stay afloat. And I genuinely thought, and I was crying, and I was so sad. And do you know what? Our financial year starts on the 1st of April. And so March just ended. This turned out to be our second best year in our 14 years.
Wow.
And that was a moment of validation for me. And for me, I thought, that is thanks to the Acumen tribe. And when I say Acumen tribe, I mean our own people who were all working from home, but still giving it their all, as well as externally. All our people, all our business community, they kept coming back to us. They kept using us. They came back to us. They haven't forgotten us. And we tried as well to we gave out so many free legal services when it all kicked off, because we knew all other businesses are crying at home, in the same way. And, that was for me a moment of validation. I thought, in a year like this, in a worldwide pandemic, when everything is shut, and that was your second best year, that's not bad. I'm pleased about that.
That is incredible. And that's, again, I guess that's a credit to a couple of things. One, the culture. We're delving into culture in a little while, but the culture you created within Acumen, with the people, like the idea of the law firm that you wanted, from back to your purpose, what you started it out for, but you created a culture within there where, like you said, the tribe, you describe them as a tribe, and I know I've heard you say that before, but which is great. Like, you're all part of that team. That you've created something there that they all just wanted to go, right, look, we're all in this together. And how did it change? So from your mindset of obviously being really sad and upset, thinking, wow, this is the end, to getting up 1st of April thinking, right, let's get the tribe together, and let's, as a leader, and turning that around, I guess, going from that mindset of feeling quite down and low and thinking 14 years of doing it, to then go, let's move forward 12 months, here we are, that you've had your second best year ever. That's an amazing turnaround from a mindset shift as well, isn't it? To do it. Where did you, I suppose, get at the point, just go, I've got, roll my sleeves up, I've just got to do this. This is what I'm here for.
I just thought, you know what, that is too precious, and I started to implement some, I call them survival steps first, like cutting down on cost, look at, right, how can we save as much money as possible, and use some of the furlough scheme, not for everyone, because some people were, and again, I always said the furlough scheme was brilliant for, say, a restaurant, because you're either shut or you're open.
Sure,
but if I work for your business and I'm on furlough and I can't, if I answer 3 emails, that means I'm working. Do you see what I mean? That was
absolutely.
So trying to find all the ways around it. But when it comes to culture, and I think that was, again, you're absolutely right, that was fundamental in kind of surviving and thriving through this, is the understanding. That's where the democratically run comes from. If you want people to care, they've got to understand what's happening and what's going on, which was one of my toughest thing in this year, because I told you, we would have the weekly meeting with lunch when we run the business together, and that stopped because obviously we weren't in the office, and the Zoom thing, it's not quite the same. No, and that's what I really missed in that year, is I genuinely care about your opinion, and I don't care what your title is. I don't care if you're a law student working here. Depends on what. If I need to extend the lease, then I only want to hear the opinion of the commercial property specialist. And if you are a family law specialist, I don't want to hear your opinion about extending the lease, because you're not going to be able to help me. When it comes to areas of expertise, it goes without saying that, I need the FD input when it comes to finance, because he's the FD. But if we're talking about, as I was saying, anything about, should we get a coffee machine? Why, if you're a senior solicitor, your opinion is more relevant than if you are a junior marketing person? Why? What do you know more about coffee machines than he or she does? So
I love that.
It's just, if you want people to care, tell them what's going on and ask them. It's not just to tell you. We don't have what other places called management announcement. We don't have, as of Monday, we're going to do this. The way we'll work in the weekly meeting, we will go, what do you think about da-da-da-da-da-da? And then we discuss it, and then we go, okay, so shall we start it for Monday? But it's not a management announcement. It was discussed. And in a way, Acumen People Solicitors was born exactly this way. So Acumen, I'm a business lawyer. So I started Acumen Business Law, just specializing in business law. And for 10 years, every time we would get someone calling me saying, oh, I'm getting divorced, can you help me? I'm sorry, we just do business law. You have to go to another law firm. I move in-house. Can you do my conveyancing for me? No, we do commercial property, but we don't do residential property. You have to go to another law firm. I need a will or probate. We kept, and it was in that weekly meeting when one of the solicitors said, for 10 years, we keep sending legal work away. Now, obviously, we in this room can't do that because it's not our speciality. But why don't we do it? And then we started every week planning it together. Should we change the name? Should we call ourselves Acumen Law? But then we thought, but then we're just like any other law firm. Acumen Business Law is so well known for being business law specialists. Yeah. Do we want to ruin the branding? And so we said, okay, so let's do a different arm. Shall we call it Acumen? Or shall we call it, will it have a zebra? We're a bit obsessed with our zebras. You know, will Acumen people have a zebra? And then, you know, all that was discussed. So it wasn't management discussing it and then announcing to staff. We don't have that language like my staff or whatever. We don't talk that way. You know, an announcement to staff saying, as of that month or whatever, we're going to start another law firm. It was all discussed and built together with them, you know, the name, the logo, the colors, everything. And then in the end, we decided to have we've got two different websites, Acumen Business Law, Acumen People. One is black and white and orange, and this one black and white, and I'm not allowed to say pink or red, it's watermelon red. Both got zebras. We decided to keep the zebras. And funny enough, initially we weren't going to call it Acumen because
why the zebras? I'll just cut across.
Zebras because, okay, if you go to the wild, all the animals are either brown or grey, primarily. I mean, the giraffe is competing there. Yeah. Primarily, all the four-legged animals are so brown, grey, boring. Suddenly, this white horse painted in black stripes, or is it a black horse painted in white stripes? Is a head turner. You know, it stands out. It's different. Yeah. And then obviously it came about with law firm. People think that the law is black and white, where it's actually 50 shades of grey. You know, and we thought, okay, because people say, oh well, the law is black and white, isn't it? And we thought, oh, that works out really well. And we thought with zebras, you can do so many fun things. So in our Acumen Business Convention, we always have live entertainment, and we have like zebra dancers and zebra singers, and we actually have not a live zebra, a live size zebra in the office, in the lobby when you come in. So you know we're obsessed with that. So that's about that is that all comes out from culture. You know, having the culture of everybody's opinion. We want to hear your opinion. I don't care what your title is, you know, what you do in the office. We want to hear and we want your engagement.
And that's a brilliant way. Like, again, culture is one of the main things that I love talking about on this podcast, and it's something I guess from running a hair salon that I've struggled with a little bit, not being a hairdresser and trying to, and something I learned from, I suppose, from that experience, but coming out and it's something I really find fascinating about how businesses create their culture within a company. And I love that ethos of brand, that everyone opinion matter. And like you said, that I guess then, because you take the hierarchy out of it, because you own Acumen Business Law, you've started it, you're the founder, but to sit around a table as the owner and be able to know that you're approachable and everyone opinion around that table, from a junior marketeer, like you said, right up to a senior partner, that everyone's opinion matters. Then when it comes to stuff like where you have got to roll your sleeves up and get stuck in, that people feel like they're part of something, as opposed to, oh well, like I'm not ever included in that, I don't care about it, and you're working from home, because then that surely with the working from home, that trust element's got to be there. Whereas I'm sure by having your tribe around you, that everyone is on the same page, you trust them, because they want the best for the business as much as you do, because you've shared all those values with them. And I think sharing and being a bit more honest as owners of business is such an important key to include people, because how can you expect them to buy into that, your purpose and what your vision for a company, if you don't share it with them?
Yeah, and in the legal industry in particular, you know, it's such an industry that doesn't welcome innovation, you know, and that's why when we came 14 years ago and said, right, we scrapped the hourly rate, we're going to do fixed fees, that was earth-shattering. And that came when I worked with all the other law firms. You know, I was charging hourly rate before, and people confuse estimate with fixed fees, because some people say no, but other law firms said, is it a fixed fee or is it an estimate? You know, say I charge £270 an hour. That would normally take 4 hours, but I'm not committed to 4 hours. Whereas we wanted to commit, this is the fee. It's £1,000. And if it took 10 hours, we lost, it's £1,000 and, or 500 or 6,000, whatever it is. Because in previous law firms, the instructions in every office was don't call the lawyers unless you have to. Because every time you call the lawyer, the clock is ticking, and and I can talk a lot, and sometimes you go, oh, isn't it chilly today? Yeah, it's very chilly. Now moving on, people don't want to chit chat to you because the clock is ticking. And I thought when I started Acumen, I thought, well, how can I form relationship with clients if they're scared to pick up the phone and talk to me? I want to create a situation where that fear is not there. And do you know what people said to me when I was sharing, this is what I'm going to do, and I've got friends who are lawyers, and they said, are you crazy? Clients will abuse it. They'll be on the phone to you all the time. And I really think it's the patronizing approach. Clients are busy people. They're busy running their businesses. They don't wake up in the morning and think, Penina's fixed fee, so I think I'm going to call her and speak to her for 6 hours. And if you've got business ideas and you call me to chat them through, for which I won't charge, that's okay, because when you actually come to implement it, you come to me, because we've been talking about this joint venture, whatever that you're about to do for ages, and now you're actually about to do it. You need the joint venture agreement. You say, oh, Penina, do you remember that joint venture I talked to you about, blah, blah, blah? We're now on board and we need that agreement. You're very, very likely, unless I annoyed you during our conversation, you go somewhere else, to come back to me to do the work. So, that was the idea, is to do fixed fees at the outset for all non-contentious matters. Because if you want to sue somebody, it's very difficult to sit with you in meeting one and go, that will be £800. I don't know. You don't know how. You might send a letter and the other side will go, sorry about it, here's the money. Or we may be in court 3 years later. So it's impossible in meeting one to give a fixed fee. But we try and break it down in contentious matters. But for all non-contentious matters, when no one is fighting anyone, when you just need a shareholders agreement, terms and condition, a trademark, a lease, an employment contract, a share scheme, you buy or sell a business, no one is fighting anyone. We provide a fixed fee at the outset. That's the idea. And the idea was to be like a business person. Our Acumen business law clients are business people, just like us. So, speaking the same way with Acumen people, of course, it's a completely different. We now have a really thriving, successful conveyancing department that just had the toughest year of their life because of the stamp duty holiday.
Of course,
Oh my goodness, sure. They worked so hard, and this is our strongest department in Acumen people. And we also do family law, wills, and probate, and of course, I'm saying that's completely different in the sense that it's not a business, but it's people. It's still people. So the business people buy houses, they need wills, they need probate, they sometimes get divorced, and they need those services. So it was lovely to be able to use the reputation with it. And initially, we made a decision in those weekly meetings not to call Acumen people Acumen, because we wanted to differentiate it so much from Acumen Business Law. And then we met, I'll give him credit, Andy Stenning in the pub, as you do.
Sure, of course.
And we shared with him the idea, and he said to us, are you crazy? You've got such an amazing brand. You've got such fantastic reputation. You have to call it Acumen. If you called it, we were in the Connaught, he said, if you call it Connaught Solicitors, I wouldn't know it's you and I probably won't use you. But if you call it Acumen, I'll immediately realise it's you and all your reputation and a goodwill goes with it. And we went back to the team and said, we just met him and we kind of sold it, basically repeated what he said, and and everyone said, actually that's a really good point, and we called it Acumen people. But that's through culture. It wasn't like, again, management announcement that this is what we're going to do and this is what's going to happen.
And again, back to, I don't want to repeat myself, but it's then back to that, like, everyone feels part of that that journey. I mean, it actually takes us quite nicely onto the next thing we're going to talk about, but it's about that journey, isn't it? And it's something that I again find really fascinating, but again mentioned in your book about discussing the journey, that it's life, business, it's not a destination, it is the journey. And I just want to discuss that in a little bit more detail if we can, and just, I guess, define what, like, when you started out, what did success look like for you when you started the business now, and then on that journey? How have you?
Yeah, and that's a really, really good point. Whenever I give talks about, business and growing, thriving on your passion and the Freedom Revolution, and I'm asked to give talks every now and again, I say, look, I may use the word success in my talk a number of times, but it's important to me to say at the outset that success is something different. So if you've got a job now and your dream, what you want is to be able to leave the job and provide the same service but earn more or less what you're earning now, but as self-employed, and you've achieved it, you are hugely successful. You are a massive success. You were working and you set out, oh, if only I could, I do web designs, websites. I build websites. I want to do it for myself, but I don't have one client. But, I earn £3,000 a month, £1,000 a month, 10,000, whatever it is, and I want to be able to do that, but working for myself, and you've achieved it. That's a huge success. If you, on the other hand, build websites and think, oh, I'd like to set up a really successful company with at least 10 branches around the country, employing at least 100 people, and it's the same outcome. You're working on your own, and you're earning more or less what you've earned there. You are a huge failure. By your own definition, not by my definition.
Sure.
You said that that's what you wanted. You wanted 20 branches around the country and employing more than 100 people, and you're not. So you have two people who've done exactly the same thing. One is massively successful and one is a huge failure because they defined success completely different. And this is a really, really important point because, these moments of that self-doubt and double-guessing ourselves, it's at that point, remind yourself, hold on a minute, what did I set out to do? Am I doing it? And if not, what else can I do? Because that's the definition if you're successful. In my case, and as I said earlier, I always knew that I want to work with people. And I specialize in business law, but there were certain things that I don't do. I'm not an employment lawyer. I'm not a property lawyer. So when I started on my own, sometimes clients would go and say, oh, I'm actually taking a list. Can you help me? Sorry, I can't. And I was only on my own for 4 months when I took on my first employee, who is Nicole Humphreys, who is still with me, and
Amazing.
she's now a senior solicitor heading the employment department. But she was the first person that I took on board 4 months in. But I always knew that was my definition of success, to set up a business specialist law firm that can provide all business law services. And I knew that it can't be just me because I can't provide all business law. And, when I was working on my own, I'll never forget it, there was one morning when I got up, I was working 5 days a week till crazy hours. I was not working weekends because of the children. I'm thinking, I've got to be at home. I never missed a sports day or a Christmas play or whatever. Holidays, family holidays every year, never missed those. But Monday to Friday, oh my God, I was working really all hours you can think of. And what would happen, till 5 o'clock, I was doing non-fee earning time, as we call in our industry, as in nothing I can charge for. So, setting up the website, going networking, writing blogs, selling, networking, marketing, talking to the accountant, whatever. And it would be 5, half 5, 6 when everything stops and quiet. And then I will start doing the legal work for which I can actually bill. And, I was working, it was 4 months after I raised my first invoice, and I think it was 8 months when I took my first employee. And I was working so hard. And it was one morning when I went downstairs and this is another element to do with fear. And I just started crying, and I thought, I can't do this anymore. I was exhausted. I was so tired. And it was at that point when I thought, hold on a minute. What did you set out to do? Do you want to be a sole practitioner? If the answer is yes, fine, but lower what you're doing. You're doing too much marketing, too much networking. You're getting in too much work for a sole practitioner. You've got to, if that's your dream, you need to act differently. Your dream was to grow a law firm and bring in other people on board. So stop being scared about it and go and take someone. I was terrified taking someone because I was really, really busy that week, okay?
Yeah.
What if I take them and then I'm not busy and I'm committed to pay them a salary when I'm not? And when you run your own business, you can't guarantee that in 2 weeks' time I'll have clients coming in and, I'm not a shop. It's not people walking in. I need to bring the work in. Yeah. And I was so scared of employing someone. And then I thought, what did you set out to do? Because you can't do this anymore on your own. And this is when we talked about what's the worst that can happen. And people think, oh, I will fail. So the fail here would be, I won't be busy. I won't have any work. That will cost me a lot of money and I won't have money to pay them. Yeah. Is it though, or is it something in the middle? And then I realized, okay, don't take someone full-time. Take someone part-time. And Nicole at the time had 2 children and took a 5-year break. She did a law degree and took a 5-year break, and then she was looking for a training contract to become a solicitor. So she was really flexible. So I was able to take her on board. Yeah. And I said to her, look, I know you want a training contract, and to be able to do training, you need to train in other disciplines. And at the moment, it's just my discipline. My promise to you is that I want to grow this, and then you'll be able to train in other disciplines. I can't promise you that I'll be successful. I'm just promising you that it's what I want and I'll give it my all. So why don't you come on board for 6 months first as a legal assistant? It's just us two. We need to like each other. We need to be able to work together, work part-time, and hopefully by then we'll know whether it works or not. And of course the rest is history. We grew and she was able to do a training contract and qualify, and now she's a solicitor and she's heading the employment law department. But that's what I'm saying, it was that fear, and where you have to stop and say, okay, what have I set up to do? I set up to grow a law firm and not to be a sole practitioner, where you can't do this on your own anymore. Go out there, and the universe conspires to make it happen. Yeah. The next day, I went to a networking event. We sat at a table, and someone I heard, Lorraine Bell, Lorraine was saying, oh, I've got a friend who is looking to go back into law. And she was talking to somebody else. She was talking to another trainee who was working for another law firm. Yeah. And out my ears. And then I went and said to her, that friend that you mentioned, blah, blah, blah. And it was that Nicole, who literally lives 30 seconds walk from the office. Brilliant. She literally lived behind the office, and she came on board. So
things happen for a reason.
Things happen for a reason, exactly.
That's an amazing. And like you said, I'm sure there's so many people. I've been there. I'm sure there's so many listeners that run their own business that have been there. Like you say, you go through these different parts, and I'm sure there's been, like at that point, I'm sure there's been other points over the course of your journey where you sort of you look
fearful.
at it and go fearful. You go, but it's like you said. I guess if you. It's been great because the whole podcast has very much gone back to this whole thing. As long as you know what your purpose is, and you go back and you, like you said, back each time and go, that is what I want to achieve. If that's what I want to achieve, this is the route I've got to go to get there. And
it's not a failure; it's a setback.
Yeah.
I know if people are listening to us, they can't see what I'm pointing. But if you imagine a graph where you're, say, at the bottom of the graph, and you want a straight line to get to where you want to get. And you're doing what you're doing, and you're going in a straight line. You go, yeah, I'm achieving my purpose. But then things happen, and you suddenly drop, and you not realize. And then you go, oh no, I failed. Yeah. And some people will give up here, but it's not a failure. It's a setup. It's a setback. That the graph can go up again. Yeah. You can go up and go back on your line to achieve whatever it is that you set up to be your purpose.
Amazing. I love that. Right, we're coming just sort of towards the end now. I just want to tell me what does the future hold for Penina and the Acumen and the Acumen family.
Yeah, well, you are the fortune teller in this. That's a very, very good question. For me, what I realized is that I love doing what I'm doing, and I want to carry on doing it until I can. It might not necessarily be in the same capacity. There may be time when we can bring other people to run the show on a daily basis or whatever. But I love working. I love working with people. I love going on the journey with people. I enjoy that. I really, really enjoy that. And it's something that I want to be able to carry on doing. And carry on coming up with ideas of innovation, of doing things differently, of nurturing our tribe. That's so important to me. The Acumen family, the Acumen tribe, as I said, internally as well as externally. I want to make sure that stays forever, ideally. And carry on. When I say carry on growing, not necessarily, I want 100 branches around the country and employing 300 people. But, not standing still either.
Yeah, sure.
Just like we grew by adding Acumen people. Now, we can focus on growing Acumen people more, but also grow Acumen business law. And, I am an opportunist. There may be an idea literally around the corner that someone go, well, how about if we did this? And I go, that sounds amazing. Let's speak to the guys. Let's give it a go.
I love it because I guess, and this is one thing certainly from a mindset point. If you're an optimist, as we both clearly are, being an optimist and having that positive sort of mindset, and that you're open to opportunities, aren't you? That's my strong belief. I believe that if you've got that mindset that you're open to opportunities, stuff out there that people go, how do you always get involved in that? Or why do you always do that? Or you always seem to get in. Well, it's only because you're open to the opportunity.
Exactly.
And I think that's such an important. I love that you still, even now, go, look, there's an opportunity around the corner. No one knows necessarily where it is, but you're, because of how you are and because of how your mindset is, that you're always going to be open to them.
Yes, sometimes something will stare you at the face if you're not opening yourself to, I don't want to be too hippie in Brighton on a Thursday afternoon, but if you don't open yourself to the universe and to the world, things can stare you in the face and you won't see it. You won't see them. Whereas if you say, well, I'm open and I'm willing to hear, then all sorts of things will come up that otherwise you might not have even noticed.
Amazing. I love that. Right, we get it. So we always finish off just with a couple of quick fire questions.
Okay.
So first one is, what advice would you give to a young entrepreneur or someone wanting to start their own business?
Find out what your purpose is, why you're doing what you're doing. Make sure it's not money. And have a story to tell.
Love that. Cool. Okay, and final one. Can you give me 3 traits that you think a person needs to be a good business person or entrepreneur? Your 3
traits. Commitment. You have to be committed to what it is that you're doing. Full of purpose, again, sorry to mention that again, because you have to be driven by purpose, and be able to give without thinking, what's in it for me? What will I get back? Because karma works in mysterious ways. It will find its way back to you, I promise.
What an amazing way to finish off. Penina, as I knew it would be, what an absolutely amazing episode. I'm so grateful for you to coming on and being so open, honest with me, and some amazing takeaways there for so many of the listeners, I'm sure. And it was, as always, a pleasure to catch up with you. You ooze passion and energy, and it's just great to be around you. And I've been lucky enough to know you for a lot, over the last few years, and continue to work with you hopefully over the future. So listen, thanks for coming in.
Thank you for inviting me. Really enjoyed it.
It was
Thank
amazing.
you.
Thank you.